Okay, 4:04 when you're ready, hon. And you got a latte here for Nadia.
A local coffee shop is a community center.
Do you want me to warm it up a little bit?
It's a place to get your day started.
Anything in the tea?
A place to meet friends.
Okay, your drink's going to be cold down at the end there, okay? Have a good day.
A place where there is usually somebody slaving away in the background, pouring their heart into their business.
I'm making butternut squash today.
And if this election is about securing the future or building back better, Laura Cornali says the politicians had better start paying attention to small business owners.
But you sound like you're getting a little burned out.
It is, yeah. It's not fun anymore, right? And that's the problem, is that they need to understand that we need to, I am a baker, I'm a cooker, and I'm not having fun doing it right now, right? Like, I used to have the giggles opening my back door, being like, I can't believe this is mine. Now it's like, who wants to buy it? Because that mentality is in my brain right now, is like, I don't know if I can continue stressfully to do this, right?
Just because of the challenges
Just
of COVID.
the challenges of COVID and feeling like I'm not running my own business, right? Yeah. Staff is a huge part because you have to work around their schedule, not what's best for my schedule, right?
Even in an idyllic place like White Rock, BC, where a sunny day at the beach could cure almost anything, the economic and social effects of COVID-19 seem to lurk just beneath the surface. South Surrey, White Rock is a sprawling suburban riding south of Vancouver. It boasts one of the oldest populations in BC. But while there are still many retirees here, the place is growing fast, particularly on the Surrey side of the riding, and that's changing things.
Nice to see you, Kate.
Nice to see you. Bye, Gordie.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
In 2017, Liberal Gordie Hogg shocked Conservatives by winning a by-election in this riding. Although redistribution made the riding more competitive since 2015, this area has traditionally voted Conservative.
It has been consistently Conservative with that one little blip along the way.
The blip being you.
The blip being me.
You want to blip again?
I'd like to blip again, yes.
You can go to liberal.ca/mail to find out.
Justin Trudeau paid Hogg a visit early in the campaign because this is one of the Conservative ridings the Liberals think they can win. Affordability is a key issue because while people are coming here for cheaper housing, cheaper doesn't mean cheap. This place was listed for more than $1.2 million, and even a nondescript condo will cost $500,000. About a third of the people in this riding pay more than 30% of their income on shelter, and there's a long wait for subsidized housing.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You take care. Bye.
Kerry-Lynne Findlay is the Conservative candidate and the incumbent. She took the seat back from Hogg and the Liberals in the general election of 2019.
What's the main issue that people are talking about when you knock on the door?
There's a lot of people like this fellow who just say they've had enough of Trudeau. They feel that his time is done. But also, affordability, it sounds general, but it's a very big topic for so many people, depending on
So you say
where
affordability,
you are,
but what do you mean? What?
Well, they mean that, like, they worry that the seniors are worried that they're going to have enough to live on, and they're upset about the $500 check that came in August because the ones who don't need it feel it's a waste of taxpayer money, and the ones who do need it feel it's not enough, particularly when there's been clawbacks, and they're very upset about those clawbacks. Affordability, because a lot of people, this is a beautiful area, but this is not an area for young families. So they worry about the next generation being able to afford a nice home and being able to make a go of it.
If you go back and look at the last elections, there are areas that we've been stronger in, and there's been a lot of growth in some parts of the area, and particularly with the issue of affordability. So there are a number of young families who probably lived in downtown Vancouver who couldn't afford housing and are now looking at moving out into this area and being able to look at and find places. So there's been a lot of growth in this area.
It would strike me that those people, those families, without trying to oversimplify things, those families might be your vote. They might be more progressive.
I think that's probably true. They're probably the 20 to 40-year-olds with young families who've come out into this community and been able to afford it and to build their their future here. And so hopefully that's something that we can respond to. But there certainly is a wide range of things, and that certainly, as I've started out with just the White Rock proper, and as the MLA having a broader thing, and now a much broader place. And as I say, the growth, there's been about 12,000 people who moved in here since, I think, 2016.
Unlike nearby areas of Surrey and Langley, there are no plans to expand commuter rail lines into South Surrey and White Rock. Commuters here travel farther on average than commuters in other parts of Canada, and they travel mostly by car. Every day there are significant travel delays at this tunnel between White Rock and Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Ritu Khanna, Executive Director of the South Surrey and White Rock Chamber of Commerce. Oh, transportation is a huge issue for us. You know, in South Surrey and White Rock, we're starving for good public transportation, actually. And, you know, that's on different levels of government. We definitely need more investment. You know, we like to think of ourselves of a community where people can live, work, and play. But the reality is that people do need to commute to get to their jobs, and people need to commute here to come to their jobs. And we're finding that businesses are struggling with their staff who can't afford to live in the community, who are coming from a long way, maybe don't have access to a car, and the public transportation just isn't there for them. And then also, you know, traveling to, that's within Surrey itself sometimes, or in neighboring communities like Delta, Langley, but then obviously commuting to, you know, Vancouver as well.
Crossing the river is a big deal.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Big lineups every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Gordie Hogg's name may be the Liberals' most effective weapon in the fight for South Surrey White Rock. Hogg is a former White Rock mayor and a longtime provincial MLA and cabinet minister. He says he got into politics because of his mother.
She looked at me, as mothers can, and she said, "You know, son, I'd always hoped I'd raise you to be the kind of person, if you didn't like something, you wouldn't complain about it, but you get involved and try and make a difference." So I had a bunch of sleepless nights. I said, "I'll show you, Mom, I'll run for council." And I knew nothing about politics. I was just responding to my mom's disappointment in me. And I was elected. And ironically, my first Little League coach was on council. So I was there with him. And
so you started as a council member, you became mayor. Yeah. You ran provincially, served for how many years?
20 years.
20 years provincially. Couple of cabinet posts.
Yeah, 3 or 4 cabinet. Well, I was 20 years in local government, 10 years as council, 10 years as mayor.
So going back to what your mom said, if you're running because you want to change something, what do you want to change?
Well, one of those things is I want to change the ability for us to look at that visceral connectedness with decision making. I think that too often we're seeing government every 4 years coming out and doing things, and without having that the lived experience of people who are being impacted by policy, by legislation, by practice. How can we bring life to it? We've got all these new techniques with social media that we need to take better advantage of in terms of being able to connect.
Tackling the affordability crisis.
Conservative leader Erin O'Toole has visited here too. That's Kerry-Lynne Findlay in the front row listening to him speak. Findlay also has plenty of experience. She served as a cabinet minister under Stephen Harper.
It's a good location.
How important do you think lawn signs are?
I think they show support and momentum, but particularly here in Surrey, we're not allowed to put signs on municipal property. So what we found last time was we got more and more and more requests because people realized that we weren't allowed to put it on municipal property. The law changed just before the last general election.
So in other words, you can't put them along the roadside or anything like that?
So the lawn signs become really important. And also for some of the big properties like farmers and that, they'll let us put a big sign up because their property can take that. But yeah, we're finding it's good. It's a good way to just show support and momentum. You know.
Thank you. Thanks, dear parents. Thanks very much.
So Gordie, what's it going to come down to, do you think, in this campaign between you and Kerry-Lynne Findlay? I mean, obviously, whoever gets the most votes. But,
Well, I think there are a number of variables, and because this has traditionally been a conservative riding for so terribly long, that I think that there are a lot of people who are entrenched in that and are very difficult to change, as there are with Liberals and with every party. And so I think probably the swing votes that happen with the NDP, the Green Party, and the other parties, where they choose to go, will make a big difference. I think we'll probably have the core votes that we've traditionally had in the two main parties in this riding traditionally, and so those votes will pay a big difference.
The NDP, do you think it's important where the NDP vote goes? We talked a little bit off camera about how the low turnout in 2017 and by-election probably helped you win.
Yeah.
So do you think that their vote is going to be a factor?
Yeah, I think both the Green and the NDP, I've talked with some of them who say that they recognize that that the Liberals are far closer to them than the Conservatives, and therefore, if it's going to boil down to that some of them think they may well vote Liberal just because of their concern with respect to the Conservatives.
June Liu, you're the New Democrat candidate in South Surrey-White Rock. Traditionally, the New Democrats haven't done particularly well here. Why is it going to be different this time?
Well, I'm here. Not to toot my own horn, but I've heard on the street that a lot of people want another option. You know, a two-party system is not the system that we work under, and it is time that we have another choice, something different, something better, something to switch it up. And I'm here actually listening to the people. I'm not holed away in Ottawa. I'm not hiding in my own office. I'm here, I'm on the streets, I'm talking to people, I'm on the doorstep. I am calling people up, and I'm ready to take suggestions. I'm ready to hear ideas. I'm ready to shake things up, and that's why I'm here.
So you're on the doorsteps, you're knocking on doors. What are people telling you?
I mean, I have started with people that are a little bit nicer to me. So historically, you know, some friends, family in this area, past supporters, and they're tired. They're tired of their needs being put aside. They're tired of big businesses coming before their needs, and especially in a pandemic era, everyone's tired of being stuck at home and the government not doing what it needs to in supporting them and ensuring that their needs are met, and especially in South Surrey-White Rock, where we have a really high older population. It's really important that we focus on things like healthcare, dental care, pharma care, senior care, and those are things that have been consistently missed in the past. And it's time that we made that change and fix things for the better.
I'm not a big Trudeau fan. Okay. I would not vote for Trudeau again.
How come?
Because he's giving everything away. And okay, when my daughter's getting money for doing nothing, it kind of matters. It blows me away. All these people being handed money to do nothing.
Number one, affordable housing. Huge issue. I have a 21-year-old and a 23-year-old, and I'm really concerned about how they're going to make their way in the real estate market. That is crazy. Number two, environmental protection. And number four, funding mental health and healthcare.
We're asking people about the federal election campaign and what issues might affect how you're going to vote.
What issues? I would say foreign policy, inflation, general operations of government.
I would say like Indigenous issues for sure. I think that's the biggest thing is like the drinking water and stuff like that hasn't really been addressed yet. So yeah, I would say that's probably one of the biggest issues of the election so far that would come up for me. But
how about you?
For me, I think it would probably be COVID and our steps moving forward, our budget and everything. Everything's kind of getting out of control, trying to get back to a new normal. And
have you been paying attention to what the people are saying? Anybody resonating with you?
Not yet, no. I haven't quite made a decision.
What's most important to me? I think housing is the number one biggest factor right across Canada here.
Frankly, I'm quite disappointed in the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, Trudeau, because he just broke every promise he ever made, and then the Conservative actually has really impressed me. And I am certainly not I have friends who are dyed-in-the-wool, blue, but not I. I'm definitely left of centre, and he is astonishingly going left of center. Like I'm impressed to the point of being stunned by his, it seems genuine. Like he's adopting socialist principles. So it's like, well,
if you want to buy a house and you're a newcomer, it's really hard. Yeah, even for a working person, right, that has an employment. Yeah.
And what issues are important to you?
Getting Justin Trudeau out of there. I'll even vote for O'Toole. He seems to be becoming a bit to the less social conservative side?
It's a really interesting riding because it's changed so much. So it's a lot like Aurora in Toronto for Ontario viewers, but that used to be big parcel residential or actual farms, right? When I was a kid, we lived there on 10 acres, right? And there's now 20 houses where our place was. Used to ride horses on the streets. Nobody does that anymore. So, those people moved in the past 10, 20 years. As you see new commercial centers being developed and new housing being developed around those centers. And that's the sort of mark of a group of people aspiring to get ahead in life. They might be new Canadians, there's lots of them there, or they might just be people moving up the economic ladder.
Because they can't afford to live in downtown Vancouver or
well,
whatever.
who can?
Yeah, so those are typically more progressive voters.
Well, not necessarily. They're strivers. But they like the idea of an active government that will give them a hand. They just don't want that hand to get too far into their pockets. And that's the sweet spot in that if you're the Liberals, right, you want to frame the Tories as people that won't give them a hand. If you're the Tories, you want to frame the Liberals as the way they give you a hand is putting it in your pocket. And that's the ongoing tension, and that's why that's a swing seat.
I know that I've had people that have come to me who are conservatives and longtime conservatives who said that they will support me. And they said actually one of the quotes that I've heard 2 or 3 times is, sometimes you have to vote for the right person, not the right party. And they were making that differentiation. So clearly there are some people who are saying that and who are open conservatives who sat on conservative executives who've made that decision. So there are a few of those, but clearly there are lots of challenges with whatever party we're with. And despite all the negativity that we see, and we keep defining ourselves by separations and by differences instead of by our commonalities. And I think that's despite the fact I think we have one of the best democratic systems in the world, that we still keep doing that. I gave a TEDx talk a couple of years ago where I talked about sameness. I said, wherever we go in the world, most people care about the same things. They care about family, they care about community, they care about getting ahead, whether it's financially or spiritually or whatever it might be. And yet we still define them by differences. But the core values are so incredibly similar that we should be celebrating that sameness. And certainly the great growth we've seen in British Columbia we couldn't survive, and indeed we couldn't survive in Canada without the immigration we've had and the great contributions from so many different cultures.
I think there's lots on people's mind. The big questions are always, of course, economics, the environment. We have a very strong environmental plan that's been well received. On economics, we need to take seriously our financial future. We are very strong on creating jobs, getting 1 million jobs lost back. We can't go back to a balanced budget or anything like that in the short term. That's a long-term goal, probably take at least a decade, given our historic debt right now. But we know how to do it. We brought Canada through the 08-09 recession strongly. We were at the top of the G7 then, so we believe we can do it again. We have strong supports. We believe in small business, which has always been an economic engine, the economic engine for Canada.
South Surrey-White Rock is right on the border. From the White Rock Beach, the peninsula you see is the United States, just a stone's throw away.
Okay, more than a stone's throw away, but you get the idea.
I'm Darrell Walker, Mayor of the City of White Rock.
Has the border closure affected this community?
It's absolutely affected our community, as well as, of course, Blaine and Bellingham. We work closely with the sister cities across the border. Our sister city is Laconnor. I would be down there having coffee with the mayor of Blaine on a regular basis if I could. What affects them affects us. And a lot of our businesses are day trips from Washington State, just across the border, up here, a walk along the pier, maybe a nice lunch on the front or whatever that looks like. And them as well. We spend a lot of time down there. It's impacted both the communities. If you go down to Marine Drive, the pier is down there, the longest pier in Canada. I think it was built initially in something like 1911. And so we are in the process of rebuilding it after a devastating storm in 2018, took it apart completely just after we were elected. Again, we haven't received funds from the federal government to help us in any way, shape, or form, despite the fact that we've applied for grants on a regular basis. Economic development and tourism go very much together in this community, and we're always looking for additional funds, but we have not been successful in any way in finding federal funds to help us rebuild our pier so that future storms, which are bound to come along, will not be able to once again destroy it.
In this riding, we've got coal trains going through here. We're taking thermal coal from the United States. It's going to the Fraser Port and going to China. And so it's contributing dramatically when they burn it there, obviously contributing to what's happening with respect to pollution and to what's happening with global warming. And so that's a significant interest that while we're trying to shut down the use of thermal coal in Canada, and we're getting very close to that, Washington and Oregon, the west coast of the United States doesn't want to take this, yet we are taking it through here, and it goes offshore.
Our plan is to help more people buy homes. It's pretty simple, and to increase the supply. Per capita, we have the lowest housing supply in the G7. There's no reason for that other than government policy, government red tape. And we want to cut back on red tape as well to make it just more achievable for property developers, and then to sell those homes, and for people to get to home ownership.
You know, people like to say, like, oh, somebody's stealing votes from other people. And from what I hear from the actual voter is that that's not the case. They want to vote for somebody who really reflects their beliefs, who really is here to stand up for what they need. And so if what they need has changed, and if their leaders have changed, and the messaging has changed, and the values have changed with the times, they're always free to make that decision. And I find that people will make the decision to vote for what they believe in, and really have their voice heard in Ottawa.
Vote their heart, in other words.
Yeah, but not in this house.
Yes, we built this house. We were the third people to move it to Morgan Creek.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I think the more that people locally know their candidates, the more inspired they are to get behind them. But also, it's just part of what goes into people making up their minds.
What's going to be the ballot question? What do you think are the issues that people care about?
There's a few of them, but I would say affordability is always a big issue in the Lower Mainland, and also mental health. We have a very strong platform on supporting mental health. Just today I heard on the radio, on the news radio, they were talking about how mental health has been affected in the pandemic.
If you look at the sort of value coalitions that are out there, people are quite diverse. One way that we look at the electorate is we break them into 6 different attitudinal groups based on their values. And so if we look at the Tory value groups, they're only a quarter of the electorate. There's nowhere near enough people that feel like fiscal conservatives and economic conservatives for the Tories to win. They have to reach out to some people that like free enterprise, but don't necessarily like a lot of the other conservative baggage, whether it's the cultural issues or the fiscal issues. And so you've got a Tory platform that does promise to balance the budget in 10 years, but in the short run is promising to add spending, to have an active government. And that really appeals to groups that are in the middle of Canada. And you know, what brings them together is that they believe that you can be anything you want to be if you work hard. But where they also, some of them agree that every year it's harder for me to get by. And so if he can offer hope to those people that believe that they can get their dreams here in Canada, but they need the government to help them to get there, that's essentially what the Tories are saying, which is exactly what the Liberals said in 2015.
Anybody resonating with you in terms of the national campaign?
Well, I guess Pierre, not Pierre.
The other Trudeau.
Yeah, the other Trudeau, yes.
I'm a first responder, so I would say mainly it's the well-being of first responders and what the type of care they're getting and how they're being supported.
Anybody resonate with you in terms of the campaign so far?
Not so far, but I'm still looking into it for now, I'd say.
I would hope that the next leader would take a refreshing look at some of the measures that we've taken and maybe some of the ways that how we've prepared for COVID-19 protection have not been working and have actually done more damage to society.
Anybody resonating with you so far in the campaign?
I'm still going back and forth, to be honest. I'm going to wait until I hear both all their platforms and then make a decision, but I'm definitely not decided yet.
Inexpensive childcare is one of the marquee promises from all parties in this election. In fact, they're falling all over themselves to get the family vote. This riding happens to be home to the biggest private childcare provider in BC, another small business. Sandra Christian has about 200 employees caring for about 2,000 children. She's apprehensive about how government childcare will affect her business and her kids.
Fund the families who need childcare. Period. There's a lot of families who don't need childcare. There's a lot of families who can afford childcare. And there's a lot of families who want to make a choice of where they want to send their children. Leave these decisions in the family's hands by funding the families directly, much like Australia does with their universal childcare program. I don't believe at this time this is a sector that the government needs to be taking on fully. It's a big one. And I do not believe between the ministries and what they're trying to navigate through so quickly, effectively, and efficiently that it's going to be a seamless process for the families.
This is a border riding. White Rock is right on the border of the United States. The border closure, of course, has affected this community quite a bit, both in people wanting to go down to the United States, was a favorite pastime of many, as well, of course, tourists coming up. And so I think, and White Rock is a sort of a tourist town locally. So I think the handling of the pandemic, border closures, those sorts of issues will play out quite a bit more in this riding than perhaps other urban ridings.
I'm not denying this. If you want to get vaccinated, fine. Why are we pushing it?
The more extreme opposition to vaccines and COVID management may not play a significant role in this race, but it adds to a confrontational undercurrent to the campaign. Noisy protesters showed up during Trudeau's visit here, too. Even in a riding that's considered economically well off in a national context, people are telling pollsters that they don't feel that way. Small businesses continue to struggle, and there's a growing anxiety about another wave of COVID.
You just try to keep positive and be like why I went into business, right? So that's been my struggle, is trying to be positive.
The closer you get to the water here, the easier it is to stay positive. White Rock is known for its positive beach vibe, and while a day at the beach may not solve all your problems or make it easy to decide how to vote, somehow it doesn't seem to matter as much down here. In White Rock, this is Ed Watson for CPAC.